I was sitting around the other day and, just finishing up a bag of coffee that I've been working through for the past several weeks. And I thought, I've gone through like 7 different kinds of beans in the past few months. And I just thought, I want to make a video to document my experience with some of these different coffee beans, just in case anybody is looking at the same things, they can get just a little bit of feedback. Because, there's such a wide variety of origins and roasts and vendors and just, so many different coffee beans out there that the vast majority of them really don't have like a ton of feedback. And so this is just my take on, again, some recent beans that I've been trying, just to give you kind of my impressions. So as an overview, all of these are going to be 100% Arabica coffee beans, whole beans, and I grind these every day. Now, I am a cappuccino drinker, so all of this will be very focused on how these coffee beans sit in a cappuccino style drink. And so I'm going to try to keep that in mind whenever I relate my experiences that, hey, this is in the context of in a milk drink. So I do tend to prefer a bean that holds up a little better to milk than just a pure straight espresso drinker probably would. Another thing is that I tend to prefer like a medium or a city roast. So all of these are going to be kind of in that range of city or medium roast. So I don't really like super light roasts, and I also don't like my charcoal flavored dark roasts. So even though I am doing milk drinks, I do like kind of something in the medium range, and that's where all of these fit. So I'm going to start off with what has really been my staple coffee for the past couple of years. And I've ended up with this for a few reasons. So this is the Blue Mountain Coffee Blend from Magnum Exotics. And one of the main reasons that I use this a lot is it's just really cheap. So you can get this on Amazon. You can also get this at Costco, which is where I get it. And, whenever I get this at Costco, it costs well under $20 for a 2-pound bag. So it's really cheap. Now, with that, you might think, what are you giving up? So in my experience, this coffee is almost certainly not, I would say, a Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee, despite the Blue Mountain branding. If you read what this company says, it says it's an exotic, full-bodied fusion of Caribbean, Central, and South American Arabica coffee beans. It's medium roast, rich flavor, sweet aroma, moderate brightness. Now, I will say, again, even though it says, Jamaica Blue Mountain Blend, and it says full-body taste of Jamaica, based on the price, maybe it's got like a handful of beans or less in that bag that actually originate on the Blue Mountains of Jamaica. But they're not lying about the flavor. I will say, in my experience, this is a very good blend. It has a very nice coffee flavor, traditional coffee flavor. And whenever you really get the extraction down, I've found that it really hits a kind of a dark chocolate note that is really, really good. It's not overly bright. It's not overly fruity. It is just kind of a straight coffee flavor with a little tilt towards some chocolatiness. It holds up really well in a latte or a cappuccino, and it's an excellent value. And because of that value and how good the flavor is, because again, there's no really bad flavors that come out of this coffee. If you don't get your extraction perfect, I'd say at worst, it's just a pretty standard tasting cappuccino. And if you get it really right on, you get some really nice round chocolate flavor that's kind of, again, my favorite memories of having an Italian cappuccino in Europe. That's kind of what it gives you. So this has been, again, a fairly constant bag in my shelf for a couple of years now. It's just a really good starter point to base everything out of, because it is kind of in the middle, neutral, very plain, ordinary, unshocking blend of coffee that's actually really, really nice. So the next coffee I tried was from Volcanica. And it was their Peaberry coffee from Tanzania. And so this is, I actually got this partially because several years ago I actually went to Tanzania I have seen Kilimanjaro with my own eyes, and I just thought, it will be kind of interesting and nice to see what the coffee tastes like these days, now that I've kind of got a bit more of a refined palate. Although, one caveat: I'm not the best of coffee tasters. Again, if you're looking for kind of snooty, highbrow stuff, you're probably going to need to look for a different channel. That's just not kind of how I roll. So, Volcanica, again, they are a pretty good source as far as like if I'm just shopping online, because you can get their stuff from Amazon, and they provide a ton of different origins and a ton of different roasts. So this is a medium roast, again, Tanzanian origin coffee, Peaberry, so it's going to have a lot of round beans in there. And so I thought, this would be interesting. Now, they advertise smooth, buttery body, dry finish, right? Delicate sweet acidity, dried fruit, savory chocolate, and orange. It's a washed, coffee. So whenever I tried this, my thoughts were straight out of the gate. Historically, when people say that a coffee is juicy, I'm like, whatever. This one actually was. This was one of the fruitiest coffees I have ever tried. And again, it's a medium roast, so it's not a light roast coffee, but it was super fruity. Very kind of interesting flavors. It wasn't strange though. It was a easy flavor, even though it was on that kind of fruity, bright end of things. I would say, even though I really enjoyed this coffee, it wasn't my favorite for a cappuccino, because that kind of brightness and the fruitiness didn't really go that well with the milk. Now, again, that's just kind of the style of drink I prefer, but I would say this is something that I would recommend for somebody if they are doing more straight espresso, if they are interested in some fruitiness but aren't looking for something that's going to shock your tongue. I felt like this was a really, really nice fruity coffee. So next up was another coffee that was kind of inspired by some historic travels. I went to Costa Rica a few years back, and so I decided, I've kind of liked the Blue Mountain blend, and it's kind of a Caribbean, Central American style Arabica. So I went with a Costa Rican medium roast from Mount Comfort. Again, also influenced by the fact that you can get it on Amazon. So once again, starting with what do they say? Well, they say that you're going to get a dark chocolate flavor with some citrus fruit, some tropical nuts. It comes from Costa Rica, so single origin, medium roast coffee, all Arabica again. And my thoughts were, look, this was kind of similar to that Blue Mountain blend, although I would say a little more subtle. It was not quite as forward and strong of a flavor, but it was pretty balanced. It was not overly fruity, I wouldn't say. I would say that this was more kind of a subtle but not weak, just standard coffee flavor. And it was pretty good. And so, given the price, which it is good value, but it's not quite as good value as the Magnum Exotics blend, I think I do prefer a coffee that's a little stronger and a little more bolder with flavors than this Costa Rican blend. Now, that's, again, probably influenced by the fact that I was drinking it in a cappuccino. Now, if I was drinking it just straight, maybe I might like this a little better than the Blue Mountain, but I don't know. Again, I am kind of set on my standard, and that's what I'm used to and I'm comfortable with. And so this didn't really offer me anything more or better than what I was getting. And it's still a good value, though. So that was kind of my take on this. Pretty similar, a little weaker. I didn't really get anything unique out of this, but it definitely wasn't bad. I didn't get any bad flavors. So next, I decided to try a South American bean, and so I went and grabbed a Illy 100% Arabica, single origin, Colombia medium roast coffee. It comes in the nice little tin. It's only 250 grams, so this was quite a bit more expensive than some of the other coffees, simply because you don't get a whole lot in one of the bins of Illy. But I also kind of thought, big coffee company, Maybe we'll get something kind of interesting in a contrast to kind of some of these, house brands or small labels, just to see what kind of they do with it. Once again, medium roast, single origin, Colombia coffee. Like, is this just Folgers? Let's see. So again, the label says this could be a smooth taste with some fruit notes. Now, I was kind of surprised with this is that it was kind of weak. Surprisingly little flavor out of this coffee. So very subtle. It was smooth, but there just wasn't a lot going on for me. It was not bright. It was not fruity. It was just kind of a weaker coffee flavor. And I'll just say it just didn't seem like a very good value. I didn't really get a lot out of it. So I was, glad I tried it, but I don't know. Maybe this wasn't the best representation of a Colombian coffee. Maybe it was, too big a label. But it wasn't bad flavor. It just wasn't much flavor at all. So after that, I decided, heck, let's just go to the opposite side of the globe. I went back to a Volcanica because, again, they just offer a ton of selections. And I went with a Sumatra Mandheling medium roast, single origin coffee, just to see. I had read online that, somebody was talking about this, not specific vendor, but that the Sumatra Mandheling coffee gave them a super chocolatey flavor. And they just really kind of sang its praises. Now, the vendor, Volcanica, says, hey, you're going to get brown spice and cocoa, well-balanced, full body, mild acidity, with flavor notes of toffee and lemongrass and dried fruit and all this stuff. I'll be blunt. This tastes like dirt. I did not like this at all. I thought that it just tasted like dirt. And I don't mean that it tasted, muddy or muddled. I mean, it tastes like mud. It tasted like dirt. It was not something that I liked. I do not recommend this. I know that's a pretty strong opinion, and maybe I just got a bad bag, but it was not good. I did finish the bag, but I actually, this was a coffee that I started blending with other stuff just to get through it because, the flavors were not bright. It was not acidic, but it was just very, very poor, kind of mud tasting, dirty tasting coffee. Didn't like it at all. And that led to another kind of big label bag. And I was like, let me try something just super duper traditional. And so I went with a Lavazza Espresso Italiano whole bean coffee blend. So this is a medium roast, 100% Arabica from Lavazza. And, not single origin. It's a blend. I didn't get one of the Robusta blends. I wanted to stick with 100% Arabica because, again, I've kind of been working through some angles trying to figure out, hey, is there something I like better? But I do like a lot of the flavors I've been getting, so, let's give this a shot. So, Lavazza says this is a 5 out of 10 intensity, tasting notes, fruit and flowers. Obviously, it's called Espresso Italiano, and I like espresso, right? And I like cappuccino. And I thought, hey, maybe this will get me a very traditional flavor. And, honestly, that's kind of what I got. It's a little more roasty. And so when they say it's a medium roast, my take on it was, it is probably still a medium roast, but it's on the roasty side. It's not a dark roast, but it is a bit more roasty than anything else that is in this set of reviews. It's still pretty good, though. It is kind of that classic cappuccino flavor profile. I did like the flavors that I got, and this is a coffee that I kind of occasionally mix in with some other stuff to give it a bit more oomph. If I want a touch of roastiness, I can put, 1/4 or 1/3 by weight of some of this Lavazza in there with it. It gets it, a little bit more towards that roasty flavor profile. And so, I do really like this, and it's a fantastic value. You get a full kilogram. Currently, it's on sale for like $12, right? I mean, you just cannot beat that value because it's whole bean. It is 100% Arabica. It's a good quality, I found, and it wasn't stale. It's not like it was roasted 6 months ago whenever I got it. It was a very good value, and I liked what I got. Now, it's not something that I would probably use daily driver pure. I do kind of mix it in a little bit. But again, tremendous value. I did like it. Just it is more on the roastier side of things, but it is kind of a very traditional flavor profile that I really like. And so that was kind of my impression there. And so that does bring me to the final coffee in this little review, which was a Bolivian Carnavari whole bean, again, 100% Arabica, and it was also from Volcanica. Again, I don't know that I would say that I'm a fan of Volcanica, even though there are a few of their coffees in this little set of reviews. It's just that they really do have a very broad offering, and it's accessible because it's on Amazon. Whenever I got this in, it was a fairly fresh roast. So again, I feel like they're doing a good job. It wasn't super cheap. It's like $25 for a pound. But again, single origin Bolivian. I kind of went back to Central America thinking, hey, maybe this is going to be a variation on that Costa Rican coffee, maybe a little different. I want to see some of the differences, right? What do I get? And so, on the bag, what do they say about it? Again, this is a medium light roast. So, they're saying it is more on the lighter side of medium. They say caramel, milk chocolate, cream, and velvet. Again, single origin from smallholder farms, 100% Arabica coffee, grown on coffee farms, elevations above 3,000 feet. I got this, it was less than a month from roast, so very fresh. And this was kind of an interesting coffee from a couple perspectives. I would say, that lighter end of the roast, it was a bit more fruity. It was kind of similar to the Costa Rican coffee, but it did have a little tilt towards the fruity end. Good flavor, probably in the same range as the Costa Rican coffee. Not as strong as the Magnum Exotics, but definitely not as weak as that Colombian coffee that I had tried. And one of the interesting things about this is that the beans themselves were really dry. They just look oddly dry, and they're very dense. Like whenever I ground this up and I got my standard 18-gram dose in there, it didn't take up nearly as much room as almost every other coffee. Like it just odd, right? So the beans seem dry and they just seem very dense for their weight. They didn't take up much volume. Now, as far as overall impression, pretty good. I liked the coffee. I would say, again, not my favorite. I do think I'm still kind of at the stage where I haven't found anything that's going to replace the Magnum Exotics blend because I didn't find anything overall that gave me just much better flavors that I just strongly preferred, and I didn't find anything that represented a better value. And so, this Bolivian coffee, pretty good. Glad I tried it, but again, not really for me. I think it had a little bit of fruitiness, but once you put that in a latte or a cappuccino, not super noticeable. And so, I think for me, I do want something that's just a bit stronger flavored, even though I would say this one's very good and worth trying. No off flavors, nothing really bad about it. And I think that's been pretty consistent. Overall, really, there was only one coffee that I did not like out of all of these that I tried. And that was that Sumatran coffee. It was not something I liked. The Illy Colombian was more disappointing, but it didn't taste bad. It was kind of weak, and for the price, it just didn't seem like a good deal. Everything else kind of had something unique to offer, and I would say wasn't bad at all. And somebody I could definitely see coming along and saying, "Oh, I love this." So all of the coffees in this review, other than the Sumatran and the Illy Colombian, I would say are really worth trying because I would expect most people to like them, and some people might really like them. For me, I'm currently still kind of searching, and I don't know what I'm going to try next. I'm still going to probably keep the Magnum Exotics in the cabinet as kind of a staple. I'm probably going to keep some of the Lavazza on hand also, just in case I want to use it as a mix-in, or, I'm just feeling like, hey, I really want some strong flavor today because it certainly got it. And the rest, I'm glad I tried, but they're probably not going to be something I purchase again. Anyway, that's going to finish up this video. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that you got something out of it. If you've got any feedback, if you've tried any of these, if you thought that, my comments were way off or something and you just had a totally different experience, especially with that Sumatran, right? If you've tried that stuff and you're like, hey, that was totally different than my experience, I'd kind of like to hear that because, maybe I really did just get a really dog bag of that stuff. Anyway, that's going to be it for me, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you got any comments, please leave them below.